Today we are diving into something that so many women experience when reaching perimenopause, but rarely talk out loud. That moment when you stand in front of your wardrobe and you think, none of this feels like me anymore. So we evolve in life, our body evolve, our role evolve, our values evolve, but often our wardrobe doesn't follow.
So in this episode, we'll explore how to realign your wardrobe with the woman you're becoming, navigate style through hormonal shifts, and make trends work for the real evolving you. Hi, Sandra.
Hi, Shabrina. I'm delighted to be talking with you about a topic that is dear to your heart.
I'm very passionate about this subject, and I'm excited to have the platform to be able to talk more about it.
So what happened to women when they reach perimenopause and they feel stuck in front of their wardrobe?
I see this a lot with probably 80% of the clients I work with, and this is the type of statement that comes out. It's either I feel like I've lost my sense of style, or my sense of style has disappeared. And I think there are a number of reasons why women in midlife start to feel this way. First, I would say, the perimenopausal changes.
The roller coaster of the
Yes,
hormones.
the hormones. And they can leave you, like the hot flushes, the hormonal changes, the ups and the downs. It can leave you not feeling like the same person,
Not
right?
feeling yourself anymore.
Exactly.
So then you feel that there's a sense of disconnection.
There's a sense of disconnection. But I also see a couple of other things going on. So it's not just one thing. I feel like there's multiple things going on with the midlife woman. There's your lifestyles change, like your children are getting older. You can do different things with your clothes, yet you haven't had the time to go and really shop and think about your style.
Yeah, because you evolve from being a mom, from having like a crazy life.
Exactly.
And then suddenly you have more time for yourself. Maybe you have your social life is much better than before. Yes. Because you have more space, more.
Or maybe you're, going back to the office. And there's also the women, in this time who've now used to go in the office and now they're working from home. And then it's really that weekend wardrobe that, needs more time spent on it. But there's a lot of changes going on, including body changes.
Yeah.
And I think at this time, women feel like they've lost their sense of style because there's a big disconnect with their wardrobe.
Yeah, but definitely
themselves.
Yeah. And I think like this sense of disconnection doesn't have to be making you feel frozen.
No.
No. Don't you think? Because it's about like embracing that this disconnection and the body that you have.
Yeah. I think any time they could be, any one of those transformations or all of those transformations, and our wardrobe needs to move with them. And when our wardrobe doesn't move with them, we feel disconnected. And some women just say, okay, I'm going to work with what I have.
Yeah, because I think some women may think like, I should wait until what?
Until I get the job, until I lose weight, until my kids are older, until I have more time.
Exactly.
There's a big list.
Of until.
Yes. This episode is all about, updating your wardrobe as a form of self-care.
You know what? I think I play guilty here.
You do?
Yes, I think a little bit. When I started gaining a bit of weight post-COVID, I thought, I didn't even think buying new things. I thought like, I'm going to lose them. I mean, it's okay to gain a couple of kilos, to lose them, it's fine. I didn't think much about it. And I think post-COVID as well, we were dressing up less. So
Yes.
I didn't feel it was necessary. And at some point, I realized, but Sandra, what are you doing? I mean, like, you are wearing clothes that, like, you don't feel well in, you don't feel comfortable. It's not exactly you. And then I switched and I said, I'm going to buy things
that fit, that make me feel good, that reflect who I am right now.
Exactly. And it's a complete shift that I experienced. I felt like I felt better in my own skin.
Yeah, I bet you did. And, it comes back to when you feel good, you do good. right? It's that enclosed cognition. There's a science behind it. So when you feel good in what you wear, you actually do better. And, we can all relate to this. Let's think about the time
yes.
where you've got ready, you've got this wardrobe in front of you, like when you'd put on weight, and you have these clothes that don't fit, and you have a meeting, you're meeting with a client.
And you're upset, and then you try like 3-4 trousers,
Right.
a dress, and then you feel nothing suits me this morning, and you get upset.
Right, and then you leave the house, and how do you feel?
Not good. I
Right,
think.
and you carry those feelings with you for the rest of the day, and it's hard to move past them. And especially if it's something that feels tight, like there's a constant reminder that, oh my God, this waistband, this dress used to fit me, and now it doesn't.
You're absolutely right.
Right? You need to be
Absolutely
reminded
right.
that you've put on weight. You don't need to be reminded of that. But on the other side, when you bought your new clothes and you got ready in the morning, like what was the difference?
I felt much more energized, empowered, but in the same time, I have to admit, I lost weight as soon as I bought new trousers. I
Yes.
said, my God, I'm not going to wear them, or I need to get them tailored, because like that's an interesting like phenomenon, like when you free yourself from like feeling like
Stuck in your
Exactly.
old life.
yeah.
And you embrace your new one. I actually, what you mentioned, I don't know, wish there was a name for it. Maybe it's part of this whole enclosed cognition, but I do see that with a lot of clients. They buy clothes that fit them right now, and they end up losing the weight because they see themselves in the mirror and they like the person that they're seeing, because it's got nothing to do with the size. It's got something to do with the fit of the clothes. So when you start embracing the fit of the clothes versus, the tag.
You feel better in
Yeah.
your body, because like
Yeah.
you just feel better. Just feel better. So Shabrina,
I think, sorry, go on, Sandra. I was going to say to you, one of the key takeaways that,
Yes.
for me is like style is self-worth.
self-worth, self-care.
Yeah.
Definitely, I agree with you. It's an act of self-care.
Yeah, it's an act of self-care. The thing is when we don't think about look after our appearance, like I'm not saying you leave the house in something, just completely, not appropriate for the outside world, but, in our heads and, turning up at work when we're wearing clothes that don't reflect us or don't look updated, we're sending a message out there too that says, I'm out of date, my ideas don't matter. And we always think about, how women could become more visible in this stage of life too.
Yeah, because like I think we all know that like you are perceived maybe for what you are or what you are not in the few first seconds you meet someone.
Right. And so if you want to be more visible in a meeting and you want people to listen to you, I think that also comes from owning that authority, like showing people that you have that authority, and you can do that via your outfit.
Yeah, so if style is your DNA, is your
Yes.
signature,
Yes.
where do you start when you are lost in front of your wardrobe?
I think a lot of what people need to do is really not go onto Instagram and start scrolling and buying what they see. I think that's the worst mistake you can do. When you stare at your wardrobe and you're like, nothing feels like me anymore, I think at that point, you need to take a step in and you need to think about, okay, what is me? So one of the exercises I do with my clients.
Tell us about it. I want to hear.
Yeah, it's a visual exercise. And, I want them to, they send me images of the styles that they really connect with. And I look at their lifestyle and,
So they create a kind of board, you mean?
Yeah, so they create a board and, these are images that represent them. And this is what I like. This is what feels like me. This is how, if I could and I had an unlimited budget, this is what I want to look like. And, it's a fun way of expressing, who you are. And then I take those images and I find 3 style words, because I think it's important to, identify what I'm seeing, find the themes. And we then use those words and that visual to then go shopping. or to then style them outfits. And, I also look at their lifestyle because that's a big component onto,
do they work, what type of job they have,
Exactly.
etc.
Exactly.
But does it mean, like, Shabrina, that we have to change our whole wardrobe? We need, like, really to revisit everything that is in our wardrobe if we feel stuck?
Well, I'd say yes and no. I think it's an evolution. I think one of the first, things that a woman needs to do is they need to detox their wardrobe. So they need to take out all those pieces that don't feel like them anymore or that they don't wear anymore. And, there's a lot of emotions that go behind, detoxing your wardrobe. You may have spent money on these clothes, lots of money on these clothes. So it's hard, to give that away. But, there's also sentimental value.
Definitely.
You remember that
yeah.
I wore that top when I went on my first date.
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah, it's true. I mean, I have in my wardrobe pieces that are like 15, 20 years old, but I can't get rid of them.
So this is the thing, Sandra, that
I just can't, because they're beautiful pieces.
They are beautiful pieces, but, styles do evolve over time.
It does.
Right? So let's just think about like blazers. So I remember when I moved to New York, I was given a gift card to Theory, and I bought this gorgeous Theory blazer in black. It was like this crepe knit, and I wore it with everything.
You overworn it, you think?
I overwore it, but it still looked amazing.
Yeah.
But now you look at the blazer shape. So that was like a cropped blazer, one button. Now you look at blazer shapes. They're slightly roomier. You can actually wear your blazer with a sweater underneath. You can wear your blazer on top of a dress. That gorgeous Theory blazer could only be worn with a tank top. And so it was great for then.
I have some of those.
Right. So then we're never going to want to wear those pieces. So those pieces really, need to come out of our wardrobes, right?
We need to grieve them.
We need to grieve them and walk away. And then even denim, denim has changed over the time. So there's no point, like we've gone from super skinny jeans to now like baggy, wider jeans. Now it doesn't mean in order to feel updated, you need to wear the baggiest jean, but you need to start looking at a slightly roomier silhouette instead of like a skin tight skinny.
Yeah. So talking about jeans, I mean, there are some trends every season.
Yeah.
So do you think we should follow those trends or we shouldn't care about them because we know our styles? What's your take on that?
What's my take on it?
Yes.
So we shouldn't be following the trends like a 20-something. We're midlife women, and but that could be your style too. That could be your style where you do follow all the trends. But I think the most important thing is to be aware of the trends, to know what's in the shops, so you don't feel like you've lost your sense of style and you're confused as to what to buy because you have a general pulse on it.
So what you mean is that it has to be like a kind of pick and choose.
It has to be a pick and choose, and how you're going to pick and choose is I'm going to take you back to your style board. And as a woman, if you don't have, a lot of women say I don't have time to do this style board. Honestly, it's the most important thing you can do.
It's a foundation.
It is the foundation, and you can't go shopping without that foundation because that's when you end up with this mismatched wardrobe. So in order to decide which trends you like and which you don't, I think it's really important that, you look at your style board, you understand your body and what's going to flatter it. You look at your lifestyle, you look at your personal coloring, and then you dive in and go shopping.
Yeah. So talking about color, how do you know, like this season, there are colors I'm sure that are in fashion.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I'm not sure which one they are. But like, should we follow those trends in terms of colors, or what will it bring us? Because I know you are a big advocate of knowing your colors,
right?
What suits you. So how do you match that with the trends?
Right.
What's
the question? So I think if you have done your colors and you know what colors suit you, then that's a great way to your first filter.
So we should invite our listeners to listen to one of our previous episodes
Yes,
where
on
you
the
dragged
colour.
me, right? And you explain how colors work.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. If you, don't really care, it's not something which is important to you, knowing your own colors. I think you don't need to buy every single color available.
For example, can I give you an example? I think
Yes.
I went shopping lately and I realized that there are a lot of pastel colors.
Yes.
And to be honest with you, I can have a bit of pastel, but I can't wear like a blue pastel suit or a pink pastel suit.
Right. So for me, I love pink, but I also know that pastel pink. So pastel pink is like a huge trend right now, and it's so beautiful, so feminine. Yet I know it doesn't suit me, and it won't match with what I have in my wardrobe, so I'm not going to buy it.
Can you bring us back to the time where you did your own colors?
Yes. And as you know, Sandra, pastel pink was my favorite color. And so right now, it's like it's saying, Shabrina, come by me. But I'm, holding
We're still
back.
attracted to this pink color.
Definitely. But I know, as I said, I wear like a deeper pink. But right now in the shops, it's mainly this pastel pink. It's the cool blue.
So you mean that the pastel pink is not part of your colors?
Yes, and therefore I'm not going to buy it as much as I want to.
So even your intuition tells you, like, I want this space.
Yes.
You know that it's not going to...
Yeah, because I tell my
Fit you.
clients to shop by color first, right? So if I start buying pastel pink and, I don't want it to wash me out. So I think that's why I'm,
You cut it off.
walking away. But there's so many other beautiful colors. For example, burgundy is still like a huge color. It's available. Cherries, like that cherry red. Also, there's beautiful chocolate brown, the mocha mousse. There's also like the butter yellow in all different shades that will suit, different people's skin tone. So you don't have to dive into the pink. There's so many other
options.
colors.
I
Yes.
bought that winter beautiful cashmere in pink, bright pink. I never had this color in my wardrobe before. But coming back to denim,
Yeah.
I know I found it so difficult to buy a pair of jeans. I mean, each time I'm going into a shop, I know that I'm going to be unsuccessful.
Right.
So I rarely buy a pair of jeans. So what is your advice to women? Because it's a big trend at the moment.
It is a huge trend at the moment. Like denim,
and you are an expert in denim.
it's also a big part of our lifestyles too, wearing jeans.
You're
We
right,
can, dress them up, dress them down. You can go anywhere with them. You can wear them to work. You can wear them on the weekend. So I think for the midlife woman, it's really important that they invest in this trend. So if you don't love wearing jeans, you could wear a denim shirt. You can wear a denim dress. You can wear a denim skirt. But if you're looking to buy jeans, I have lots of tips. And
I want to hear about them because I need to go and shop with you for my next pair of jeans.
So the most important thing is to know like your rise before you start shopping.
Okay.
Because most of the shops that you walk into will not tell you your rise. All they'll say is this is a high-rise jean, this is a low-rise jean, and I say stay away from low-rise.
Yeah.
Because, they're not the most flattering.
Yeah, because your belly can, it's like it creates a kind of like...
Yeah, and then it's hard to wear different types of tops.
Yeah.
So, finding out your rise, and I have lots of videos on my Instagram and I explain how to do it, but really you just need a soft measuring tape and you need to measure from your crotch to your natural waistline. And that's going to be, then you have a range. Like that's going to be where you can, thereabouts.
You can play around.
Right.
Okay.
And so there's always some room to play with. But then you'll know when, like, for example, my good rise is 11. I know if I'm going to try on a pair of jeans which have 13 rise, they're not going to look good on me. So then...
So it's you can gain a lot of time.
Yeah, and then also, finding out your inseam, your waist measurement. Because a lot of the sizes, may say it's like a 28, but a 28 in one brand is a 29 in another and is like a 26 in another brand. And that can be disheartening when you're trying on, the size that you think you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about for example, I'm not going to try like a barrel jean. I'm pretty sure it doesn't suit me. But like
I wouldn't say that, Sandra.
Wouldn't you?
No.
I should really go shopping
Yeah.
with you.
Well, I think, I did, what I didn't say is the most important thing is to firstly think about the silhouettes that suit your body, right? Like, what do you want to highlight? What do you want to minimize? And, there is a pair of denim out there for everybody. But, starting off with that information, it helps you, then you're like a little...
eliminating what you
Exactly.
want to suit you no matter what.
And the barrel jean, is like one of my absolute favorites because it's super comfortable and you can wear it with all different shoes. And there's different versions of barrel, like some are more exaggerated than others. Like as someone who's 5'3", I'm not going to get a silhouette that's too overwhelming for me, but it could work on a taller woman. So I think it's about, thinking about your proportions.
Yeah. I have another question for you, if
Yes.
I may. What about like all those flower power,
The romantic bohemian.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. For example, I know that if I wear like too much flowers, it doesn't suit me. But it's a big, big trend at the moment. So
I would say, Sandra, skip if flowers don't speak to you. Just because it's a trend, it doesn't mean that you need to buy it. I think the most important thing is that you focus on, your prints, like what prints speak to you, what
I
colors
love
speak
geometric
to you.
prints.
There you go. And you'll see that in the shops. And so just because you don't, you're not attracted to flowers doesn't mean you won't look up, like updated and current if you don't buy them. But, the most important thing is to think about adding a new type of silhouette.
Yeah, exactly. So what my take here is like resist the trend when they don't suit you.
Exactly. If they don't speak to you, don't buy them. Don't chase them.
Yeah, I'm not going to wear like a bohemian dress with a hat on me. I think it won't suit me. Maybe I'm wrong, but
Yeah.
I don't think.
But that's why when you do, like when I look at you, you like more classic pieces, more classic cuts. The bohemian also, a lot of the fabrics are softer, right? So you can, sometimes the chiffon is a little bit overwhelming, but you can take little bits of the trend. For example, I've seen you in like the broidery blouses. That's still part of the romantic trend. So you can take a little bit of it that speaks to you, but you don't need to go head to toe.
Yeah, that's a good tip, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what about like belts? Where for women, for example, that gain weight, do you think like it's better to mark
So
the
belts,
waist, or it's better not to? Like, how do you approach that?
well, it depends on, your body shape. So belts aren't meant for everybody. And belts are a huge trend right now. There's belts on blazers. There's belts attached to blazers. You belt your dress. They're everywhere. So my, first advice is, if it doesn't suit you, don't wear it. It is a great way to highlight your waist. If, there's a waist there to highlight, right? But if you're you don't feel it's something that looks good on you, don't feel the need to wear it.
So what about where to shop?
Okay.
Because like, it's sometimes overwhelming. You go on websites and you see like brands that have young models.
Yeah.
And then you don't recognize yourself sometimes in some brands anymore. And you don't feel like they talk to you.
Yes. This is a common complaint I hear from my ladies. And, that's why they like having, someone to shop with them. Because it can be very intimidating walking into shops. And the adverts are much younger women, often in their 20s, and, we're midlife. It doesn't mean there's not items in the shop that will suit us, but it's not really calling our name to say there is something here for you. And then you add in, the sizes, you can't often find your size. Some shops aren't size inclusive, so they stop at like size 12 or 14, so that makes it hard.
And then small 12 or 14.
Right, and so they don't allow for, boobs or bums.
Yeah.
And then, you have sweaty, horrible lighting in the changing room, right?
Yeah.
That, then gets you flustered.
Yeah, because you have hot flushes, and on top of it, you get into a changing room.
Yeah, which is
And
tiny.
then,
And then you've got the light coming down on you, and you walk out and you feel really disappointed.
Yeah, but I think the industry is changing.
It is changing.
I have a big admiration for this beautiful model called Ashley Graham.
Yes.
I think she's changing the perception that we should have.
Well, beauty can be in any size. It doesn't have to be, in like a size 6, a size 8 model. And Sandra, funny story. When I lived in New York, I would go to this boxing gym. And one day I was working out with the trainer, and Ashley Graham walked in.
She's stunning.
She's stunning. She had no makeup on. She was in her gym gear, and she still looks stunning. And I tell you, that girl was strong. She was, working out harder than I was, probably because I was staring at her, because I was just like, wow. But yeah, and it's good that we are seeing women who represent us. And I think there's some really good shops, that have come about over the last few years that actually do really represent midlife women.
So would you mind sharing with us?
Yeah.
What are your recommendations?
So these shops, why I love them is that one thing I noticed that a lot of midlife women struggle with too is styling. So they have these pieces, but they just don't know how to wear them. So these shops actually, they come with these amazing catalogs that show you how to wear these pieces. And even if you're not buying everything in there and you have those clothes in your wardrobe, it gives you an idea how to wear them. So, for example, M&M.
I love M&M.
They do such a good job.
You know what? I think when I started gaining weight, it's the first shop where I found trousers that were suiting me.
And I
couldn't buy anywhere else.
Their shapes are beautiful. So the silhouettes allow to highlight women's bodies, show off the waist if that's something you want to highlight. I love the zip things. So you could show as much cleavage as you want. The fit of the trousers, they have different lengths.
Yeah, they are perfect. Honestly,
And, the style, I suggest if you don't, sign up and get their catalog because there's so much inspiration. I love receiving mine. And then I also love...
I think I do. I'm on,
you
on
get
that
it?
list. I think yeah.
And then there's Weiss also.
Wise, yes.
Yes. And
I like this brand.
I love it too. And they give you
I
really good
it.
styling inspiration.
Definitely.
I think the lady's French, the lady who found it. I think she's French.
Is she? To be honest with you, I discovered a lot of new brands coming to UK.
Yeah.
I was with my French brain, No, dressing up only with French brands.
It's exciting when you discover something that works for you and you can fit it in with your French style.
Yeah.
There's some other boutiques I love. There's Saint and Sophia, and they've just opened a store in Covent Garden. That's a great place to shop.
I don't know that brand, but I would be more than happy to discover it.
And they're very size inclusive. Safin, which I love too. Actually, this skirt I'm wearing is from Safin, this leather skirt. I love their style.
Safin was created by
Samantha Cameron,
right?
Yes. Beautiful brand. Really beautiful, timeless pieces that don't age, very quickly, and that's why I like it. And then there's some other boutiques, like for example, Iris. It's a multi-brand store, and Trilogy. I love taking clients there for denim too. But then there's also other stores, like for example, Marks and Spencer's and John Lewis. Whistles. These brands.
I love whistles.
Yeah, I love whistles too. And I really do love Marks and Spencer's. They really have, the midlife woman. They're thinking about her. The styles. I was there the other day. I go to the gym around the corner, and then I go and get some groceries. And they had this beautiful double denim trouser and waistcoat set that I had my eye on. And it was beautiful. And, you could, if it was in another shop, you would think it was like £500 or something.
It's about being curious, I suppose.
Yeah.
And try to get into shops, but that we don't have in mind.
Yeah, and not always buying. I sometimes, just go window shopping. You know, I just go in, I look at stuff, you know, you take something in your mind and then go home and, you know, think about it. You don't have to buy right away. But, you know, coming back to the style board, I think once you do that and you know what, you know, where you want to take your style, and that's your self-expression, then use the trends then, you know, to do that.
But I think the takeaway here is like, you don't need to change your body to start thinking that like you can take care of yourself and you can look good.
Right. You can look good at any size. And I think, you know, what I want our listeners to know is that, you know, if they have put on weight and they are feeling, you know, that their wardrobe doesn't work for them right now, you know, buy a few pieces. You know, it could be an updated color. It could be a new silhouette. You know, just buy a couple of things that make you feel good. Because when you start doing that, as we said, it ripples into, you know, the rest of your wardrobe and your life, right?
Yes, it's a ripple effect on everything.
Yeah.
It carries with you the energy that you put into it.
I knew you were going to say energy. But it does. It really does carry that energy.
Yeah.
And you'll carry that, you know, with your conversations with your partner, your children.
Yeah,
you know, your
work,
kids will be like,
clients.
wow. You know, they won't be walking away from you at the playground because they're like, wow, you know, this is my mom.
Exactly. I think, thank you so much, Shabrina, for all those like takeaways and tips and recommendation that
Thank
you gave us today. It's like quite enlightening, and I think it can give a lot of energy to women to switch their mindset and to think, I have this superpower, I can change it, and I can feel amazing and move on.
And be
life.
more visible.
Yes.
Be more visible. And I
So
think,
shall we talk about our workshop
yes,
a bit?
Yes. So we have, Sandra and I launched a workshop. It's called Invisible to Visible, Thriving Through Menopause Inside and Out. And it's a 4-week workshop, and we go through style, energy, hormones, mindset. We go through everything. And
it's a transformative experience. It's more than a workshop, isn't it?
Yeah. It's more than a workshop. You know, you walk away with like huge takeaways. And we've already run this once, and we are running a wait list. So if you're interested, the details are in the show notes. And if you enjoyed our episode, you can follow us on Instagram at Hormones and Heels.
Thank you very much, Shabrina.
Thank you, Sandra. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.